I got to do this. Text not coming out. Huh? तथा पुनः श्वासभिक्कायं विषमगतायं प्रकूपिता उवाच प्रहुगणः किमिदमरे त्वं जीवन्मृतो मां कदार्तिकृत्य वृत्रशासनम् अतिचारसि प्रमातास्य च ते करोमि चिकित्सितं चिकित्सं दण्डपणे एव जनताय यथा प्रकृतिं स्वं भजिष्यास इति. Ata, thereafter, punaha, again, swasibhikayam, in his own palanquin, Visama Gataya, been unevenly carried because of Jadabharas not walking properly. Prakupitaha, becoming very angry. Vacha said, Rahuganaha, King Rahugana, Kim idam, what is this nonsense? Are, O fool, Tvam, you, Jivat, living, Mrittaha, dead, Mam, me, Kat arti kritya, neglecting, Vritta sasanam, chastisement by the master. Ati charasi, you are overstepping. Pramatasya, who are almost crazy. Cha also. Te, yo, karomi, I shall do. Chikitsam, proper treatment. Danda panehi, eva, like Yamaraj, Janataya, of the people in general, yata, so that prakritim, natural position, swam, your own, bhajisya, say, you will take to iti, thus. Thereafter, when the king saw that his palanquin was still being shaken by the carriers, he became very angry and said, You rascal, what are you doing? Are you dead, despite the life within your body? Do you not know that I am your master? You are disregarding me and not carrying out my order. For this disobedience, I shall now punish you just as Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, punishes sinful people. I shall give you proper treatment so that you will come to your senses and do the correct thing. I will go on. Huh? Thinking himself things. Thinking himself a king, King Rahugana was in bodily conception and was influenced by material modes of passion and ignorance. Due to madness, he chastised Jadabharat with uncalled for and contradictory words. Jadabharat was the topmost devotee and the dear abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the king considered himself very learned, he did not know about the position of an advanced devotee situated in devotional service. Nor did he know his characteristics. Jadabharat was the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He always carried the form of the Lord within his heart. He was the dear friend of all living beings, and he did not entertain any bodily conception. He therefore smiled and spoke the following words. Purport: by His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. What happened to the others all? What? What? Catering. The distinction between a person in the bodily conception and a person beyond the bodily conception is presented in this verse. In the bodily conception, King Rahugana considered himself a king and chastised Jadabharat in so many unwanted ways. Being self-realized, Jadabharat, who was fully situated on the transcendental platform, did not at all become angry. Instead, he smiled and began to deliver his teachings to King Rahugana, a highly advanced Vaishnava devotee. He is a friend to all living entities and consequently is a friend to his enemies also. In fact, he does not consider anyone to be his enemy. Suhirda sarvadehinam. Sometimes a Vaishnava becomes superficially angry at a non-devotee, but it is good for the non-devotee. We have several examples of this in Vedic literature. One Narada became angry with the two sons of Kuvera, Nala Kuvara and Mani Greva, and he chastised them by turning them into trees. The result was that later they were liberated by Lord Sri Krishna. The devotee is situated on the absolute platform. Then when he is angry or pleased, there is no difference, for in either case he bestows his benediction. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnanam Gena Shalakaya Shikshadan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Satpitam Yena Bhutale Sahagana Raghunatham Vidam Tam Sajivam Shadvitam Shabdutam Parajanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishagan Vidam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptaganchna Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusuta Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much for joining in our Saturday, today is Saturday program. So we are continue reading this dialogue between King Rahugana and that Jadabharat. So here Jada was acting like a dumb person who didn't want to have anything to do with the material world. So he was forcibly uh, actually abducted. Wasn't a word? Abducted by the, because he was loitering around and they saw they needed one man, so they picked him up and they made him carry the palanquin. So while he was carrying the palanquin, he was always going slow because he's looking at the ground and seeing that he doesn't want to step over any ants or any living entity. So because the others are walking fast and he is slowing them down, so that created a little awkward situation for the others and unbalance in the carrying of the palanquin, and that disturbed the king very much because he was king. So when a king, he expect what? Uh, his followers to please him, you know. So, but Jada was beyond that. He was not identifying with the body. Okay, and just prior to this incident, the what is that? Those Kali worshippers, they caught him, and they wanted to sacrifice him. He also say, okay, he didn't. he was not bothered. You want to cut me, fine. But because he was always thinking of the Lord, Durga could not tolerate, and she burst open from the thing and she killed all of them. So now the other episode, this king now, he is trying to impose his jurisdiction on a pure devotee. Because he didn't say anything, that's the position of the devotee. All these verses are there in this Bhagavad Gita. Where are you going with? What happened? Oh, here. So he is in this mood. All these verses are about the position of a person who is not very um, bothered about material world. And Krishna is giving this example. This is the position of a pure devotee. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal to both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, is mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So this classic fits in the character of Jada Bharat. It is the point. So this is the position of a person who is beyond the bodily concept. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and is not disturbed by anyone, who is equiposed in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, very dear to me. So this is again another quality of Jada Bharat. He does not put, no one is put into difficulty and was not disturbed by anyone. See how he is equiposed. It's very dear to the Lord. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pain, and striving for some result, not striving for some result, is very dear to me. See? Another qualities of Jada Bharat. Just to go a little bit on this one. This is I can't do this. This is running around like this. That, so here the word anapeksha in Sanskrit. So it's explained here in the CC. These qualities are also described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he's speaking to Sanatana Goswami about a pure devotee. So I'm trying to explain this point here. Yeah? Yeah. The word anapeksha means that one should not be concerned with mundane people and should not depend upon them. This indifference. One should depend solely on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be free from material desires. One should also be clean within and without. To be outward clean, one should regularly bathe with soap and oil. To be inward clean, one should always be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. The word sarvaramba parityagi indicates that one should not be interested in so-called smarta viddhi or pious or impious activities. So this is the position of Jada Bharat. That's why in this verse it says he's always carrying the Lord. So he's always thinking of the Lord. This is the difference between a pure devotee and not someone who is not a pure devotee. So of course, everyone is carrying the Lord in the heart. The Lord is sitting in the heart of everybody. I have many times explained this point. But why is the difference between a pure devotee and an ordinary person? Huh? Realization. Huh? What? No, I'm talking about devotees also. You also carrying Lord in the heart. You're hearing million times the Lord is in the heart. But why we are unconscious of that? Why? Huh? You're not surrendered. What? You are surrendered. So you're carrying the Lord. You know you're carrying the Lord. Huh? What she's saying? I mean, what she's saying, Prabhu. Come on. Have some sensibility, when you talk. Answer the question, why? Why? Lust. Because of lust. Very good. What is that verse? Huh? I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. My Lord, you are the supreme well-wishing friend of everyone, the dearmost friend, the controller, the super soul, the supreme instructor, the giver of supreme knowledge and the fulfillment of all desires. But although you are within the heart of the foolish, because of lusty desires in the heart, cannot understand you. You see this point here? Everybody is getting the Lord. Huh? But why we cannot understand? Why? Huh? Now you know? Don't speak anyhow, your head. Understand? Hello? So you must know this point, and then you must have reference. When you speak, you must have some reference to back you up. Otherwise, it's just some speculation. You understand? So you see how a person who is a pure devotee, he, as the Bhagavad Gita, there's two verses, right? 629 and 630. Yo mam pasyati sarvata sarvam yam mam pasyati. Yeah? So he's actually seeing God. You know what I mean? Why? How is he seeing? Because externally he sees the Lord's energy everywhere, and internally he's always reciprocating with the Lord. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindam adipurusham tamaham bhaja. He is always seeing the Pashyantiyam yogina. What is that verse? Prabhupada quote this many times, He says that because the devotee, 12, 13. So here in this verse, Prabhupada always quoting this line. The yogis, dhyana vavisdhana avastita tad gatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginaha. Pashyanti means see. It is not that they theoretically see over. They are actually seeing the Lord in the heart. Example is Prahlad Maharaj. Why he was so brave? Because he was having the Lord in the heart. He could see the Lord in the pillar. He could see. Is your God there? Yeah, he's there. So a pure devotee is always seeing Krishna. He is never separated. One time they were in Mayapur, they were going to build that old temple, So the deities were there and they wanted to put Prabhupada seat far away. And said, Prabhupada, will you be able to see so far? And Prabhupada said, I am never separated from the Lord. Whether far or near, he is always. This is example, and the answer of a pure devotee is not the same as we give. Oh yeah, it's a little bit far for me. Maybe you can bring here. I'm really sorry. You see how the answers are, that determines your spiritual position. Because a pure devotee is always with Krishna. What is that verse? 9:4, 9:4, is it? 68, is it? I am seated in the heart of the devotee. 9:4:68, is it? I think you understand this, right? Pashyantiyam yogina, right? And so here in this verse that Krishna explained to the, what's his name? Durvasha, yeah? This also is quoted many times. I think it is here. Sadhavo hridayamayam sadhunam hridayam aham mat anyate na jananti naham tebhyo manakapi. The devotees are always in my heart, and I am always in the heart of the devotee. The devotee does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotee. So this position is not based on some theory. It is not a theoretical position. You try to understand. That's why when Prabhupada was speaking to one reporter, Prabhupada was saying Krishna was dictating and I'm writing. And Rameshwara was saying, no, what he meant is that, you remember that incident? Do you remember? You don't remember? And he was trying to, actually what Prabhupada he was trying to explain in his thing that Prabhupada is meaning that, he realization. Prabhupada stopped him. Prabhupada stopped him. And he said, Krishna was dictating and I was writing. They're saying the different position of a pure devotee and someone who is not pure and he cannot understand this thing. That's why when someone asked Prabhupada, can you see God? Prabhupada said, yes, you can see God. Why he said like that? Because he's seeing God. Now, if you are not seeing God, you'll say, no, you can see the God in the deity. That's a different answer, you understand? You can say, oh yeah. But a pure devotee, he is different. He is actually seeing God. He's not only, he's always with God, 24/7. You understand this point, right? So it is not some fiction. It's not some fiction. Prabhupada explained this point, I was reading his classes. Prabhupada is saying that Tad Vidiparnipatena Paripasnina, that verse, right? Self-realized soul, right? In that point. So a self-realized soul, Prabhupada qualifies him as someone who is seeing God or experiencing God. There are two words, seeing, yes, or experiencing. What does I mean by experiencing? That means he is what? With God. Always understand. That's why a person in that kind of caliber, they have no doubts. They have no doubts. And they are preaching and everything, and their action is, on the transcendental level. Just like here, Jadabar, he didn't care, carrying, but he was doing his own thing. He carried the palanquin. You want me to carry? Oh, no problem, I'll carry. Indifferent. He is equipos. Understand? And Ravugana was using sarcastic words at him. Later on, you will see how he explains. So all these things are due. On one hand, in Jadabharat, King Ravugana, he was king, and he's on the bodily plane, and he's dealing with someone who is actually with God. There are two different positions. So these verses all qualify the position of Jadabharat. That's why that Bhagavad Gita, that these verses that I'm quoting, these are the verses about a pure devotee. And this is also there in Chaitanya Charitamrita 23, qualification of a pure devotee. So, going back to that again, what is that? So here, '16. My devotee was not dependent on ordinary. I think I finished this, right? No, this is the one. On ordinary cause of activity, was pure, expert, without cares, free from all pain, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. See? This is the position of a pure devotee. And of course, you can read the purport. I would advise you to read the purport. It will take so much time if we have to do that. One who one who neither rejoices nor grieves, who laments neither laments nor desires, one who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. See? He's not bothered. He's completely indifferent. This is the position of a pure devotee. Of course, we cannot imitate this activity unless we are in that level. And this is the last verse of this. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who does not care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Again, another qualification of Jada Bharata. Because these verses are spoken by the Lord. So a pure devotee is in a different level, because he understands that he is a spirit soul and is not the body. So he doesn't care anything that happens with the body. Of course, the last verse, it's Krishna sums it up here. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service will completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal. Very dear, very, very dear to me. So this pure devotee is on a different level. He's not bothered. Like here now again, Ravugana was speaking sarcastically. So in this verse you can see he was indifferent. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from past pious or sinful acts. Since it is you alone who control this good and bad fortune. Such a realized devotee who also disregard what ordinary living beings say about him, not bothered. I mean, you will hear about the subsequent verses, then how he becomes indifferent, whatever you say, it doesn't mean anything. Every day he fills his ears with your glories, which are recited in each age by unbroken succession of Manu's descent, and thus you become his ultimate salvation. So they are not, the pure devotee's mind is only on the lotus feet of the Lord. It does not divert anywhere else, and he cannot divert anywhere else. Just like Srimati Radharani, she was saying, we don't talk about Krishna, it's too much. But how can they not talk about him? You see how? Because he's inside, outside, everything is Krishna. You understand? So this is how a pure devotee gets to understand this. So here, this purport, text 39 clearly says that impersonalistic renunciation will continue to suffer birth and death, birth after birth. One may ask if this suffering is justified, since the renunciant status should examine from suffering whether or not he has devotional attitude. As the Sutri mantra says in this verse, the perpetual glory of a Brahmana is never increased or diminished as a result of any of his activities. To counter the objection of thus raised, the personified Vedas offer this prayer. Impersonalistic jnanis and yogis do not qualify for full relief from the reaction of karma, a privilege reserved only for those who are tvat avagami, a pure devotee, constantly engaged in hearing and chanting topic concerning the personality of Godhead. Devotees hold firm to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet by their unrelenting Krishna consciousness. So they need not strictly adhere to the ritual commands and prohibitions of the Vedas. They can fearlessly ignore the apparent good and bad reactions of the work they do only for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. And they can equally ignore whatever others may say about them, whether praise or condemnation. Humble Vaishnava, absorbed in the pleasure of Sankirtan and glorification of the Lord, pays little heed to praise of himself, which he assumes mistaken, and happily accepts all criticism which he deems appropriate. So you see how a pure devotee, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was, what's his name? Ramachandra Puri. You know, the part when he went to visit, right? You know the same? So he was finding faults, right? Because he was very much an offender, and his only service was to find fault. So he was trying to find fault with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's what reaction was, he didn't bother. You know, of course, he reduced his eating. He was eating 5 man food. He reduced it because Ramachandra Puri was complaining that all these Vaishnavas, I came here, I heard they are eating so much. And so in order to kind of play it down, he had little. But on the whole, Prabhupada explained he was ignoring him. They're not bothered. Not showing any importance to him. So that same mood that Jada Bharat is also, is not bothered. Whatever you say, carry on you say. Doesn't mean a thing. So this is explained here in this purport here. So pure devotee, they are indifferent to all these things. Whereas one who is not a pure devotee, then he gets very quickly upset, you know. So there's a verse about that. I think this is the one, I'm not sure. So this is the quality of Naranarayan here. My dear King Nimi, when Naranarayan Rishi thus spoke, writing the fear of the demigod, they bowed their heads with shame and addressed the Lord as follows to invoke his compassion. Our dear Lord, you are always transcendental beyond the reach of illusion, and therefore you are forever changeless. Your causeless compassion towards us, despite our great offense, is not at all unusual in you. Since innumerable great sages who are self-satisfied and free from anger and false pride, bow down humbly at your lotus feet. So, this is the quality of So the demigods place many obstacles on the path of those who worship you to transcend the temporary abode, the demigod, and reach your supreme abode. Those who offer demigods their assigned shares in sacrificial performance counter no such obstacle. But because you are the direct protector of your devotee, he is able to step over the head of whatever obstacle the demigod placed before him. So another thing is that actually I'm finding this verse. Give me a minute. Oh, 11, next one. So this is the verse you can see. In that verse you see those who are not devotees, they are easily conquered the mode of by the modes. Eh? Some man This is a person who is in the bodily plane. Some man practice severe penances to cross beyond our influence, which is like an immeasurable ocean with endless waves of hunger, thirst, heat, cold, and other conditions brought about by the passing of time. Such sensuous wean and urges of the tongue and sex organ. Nevertheless, although crossing this ocean of sense gratification through severe penance, such persons foolishly drown in a calf's hoof print when conquered by useless anger. Thus, they exhaust the benefit of their difficult austerities in vain. So, this is the position of a person who is like Jada Bharat. He was provoked, but he kept his cool. Yeah? But those who are not in that level, they do severe austerities and all these things is explained here. See? Uh, some man practice severe penance to cross beyond our influence, which is like an immeasurable ocean with endless waves of hunger, thirst, heat, cold, and other conditions brought about by the passing of time, such the senses wean and the urges of the tongue and sex organ. Nevertheless, although crossing this ocean of sense gratification through severe penance, such persons foolishly drown in a calf's hoof print when conquered by useless anger. Thus, they exhaust the benefit of their difficult austerities in vain. This is the position of a pure devotee. He never retaliated. Kept his cool. But those people who are like an example of what is name? Many examples. Durvasha Muni, correct? You see how he was provoked. Immediately he became very puffed up because he's a big yogi, right? Took out his hair and created a demon to kill Amrish Maharaj. You saw? I'm sure you know the story, right? You know or don't know? Huh? You know, right? I don't want to go. So, this is the position of a yogi. He lost his cool. Whereas devotees, they equipose. Huh? And so explained here in this verse. Where is that verse? Huh? I quoted this verse about anger. The devotees are free from that. That was 11:11. Not in the 11:11. Where was it? Huh? 14. Huh? 11. Was it? Anyone knows? Forgot that verse. Hmm? Where was that? Anyone knows? My devotees are free from all this. Only my devotees. Huh? Where was that? I did the whole thing on anger, no? Remember? Nobody remembers. Very difficult to give up this anger. It is in 11:22, Anne. 11:22 Anne, is it? Is it? I think then he quoted the story of the Avanti Brahmin, no, who got miser. Is that the thing? So 11:22:61. So you see here, O soul of the universe, O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong, and therefore it is very difficult even for learned man to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotee who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet are able to tolerate such offenses. That see the Jada he could tolerate because he is a pure devotee. You see the difference? Rahugana on the body plane, he couldn't even tolerate a little shaking. Got very angry. See? That's why it says here in this verse, very difficult. It is very difficult even for learned man to tolerate the offenses committed against them. Very difficult. So one party on the bodily plane. That's why when you are in the bodily plane, it's very, what we say, dangerous platform. Because you can always be provoked. A little bit you get, very disturbed. Whereas a pure devotee, very difficult to disturb them. Because you can see how Krishna explained this thing also. It goes on to give the story about this Brahmin who lost everything, no? Lord Krishna says, O disciple of Brahaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in the world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by insulting words of uncivilized men. Practically, it's not so easy. Krishna is saying. Because there's another angle of that. You cannot tolerate, someone who's offending a devotee. That again, we cannot. Someone offending our spiritual master or a devotee, then we cannot tolerate that. Because on our own behalf, we should tolerate sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. They say words are more sharper than arrows, right? Again, here Krishna is saying these words. My dear Uddhava, this is how Krishna is explaining the story about this Brahmin. So I've given you an example of a behavior of the pure devotee. I've quoted the Bhagavad Gita, right? And I also have shown you the 10th canto, 87th chapter about a person who is indifferent to all this, explaining the qualities of Jada. And I've also explained how he was not provoked. I've explained that, right? And now I'm going to give you examples of person who is not exactly a pure devotee. That you see how, what's his name? Brahaspati, was it? Bhrigumuni. He went to prove the supremacy of Krishna. You know that part, right? So he first went and he mentally offended Lord Brahma. You know, right? This is in 10th canto, chapter 90, I think. Huh? Chapter 90, you can read. So there, you can see how Brahma was offended mentally and he became very angry, right? You know the incident. Then he went to Lord Shiva and with words, he offended him. And Lord Shiva became very upset. Yes. Then he went to Lord Vishnu, Narayan, and he physically abused him. But the Lord was not disturbed. He said, oh, you kicked my chest, maybe your feet got hurt, no? My hard chest must have hurt your soft feet. Yeah? You know that story, right? So these are all to explain how the person is in transcendental qualities and how a person who is not in the transcendental become disturbed. You understand? And of course, the demons, it is explained that even for a little coin, they can fight like anything. They become what? Bitter rivals, enemies. You follow? Possession. So, how it is very detrimental to maintain the bodily concept of life. It's dangerous because this is where quarreling, bickering, fighting, it all breathes about you. So therefore, to overcome this problem, we have to take shelter of the devotional process and the devotees. It is not possible you just come to the process. You have to have what? My dear Lord, unless one worships the lotus feet of great devotees, one will be conquered by the illusory energy, by his intelligence will be bewildered. Indeed, who has not been carried away by the waves of material enjoyment, which are like poison? Your illusory energy is unconquerable. No one can see the path of this material energy or tell how it is working. This Maya of Krishna is not so easy. Okay? So it is very, I think this verse was, I learned it in Australia. See how dangerous it is. Huh? Yes, you cannot. That's why when you preach, you can preach to people who are what? Devotees. But those non-devotees, difficult. Yeah, Prabhupada quoted this verse. I was very, amazed. I've read the Bhagavad Gita so many times, I missed out this verse, and Prabhupada quoted this verse. I guess this is how you learn, no? This is spoken by Yamunajacharya. Prabhupada was quoting this verse here. This verse here. Tvam sila rupa charitahi parama prakarstahi satvena satvikatasya prabalaischa sastrai prakatya deva paramartha dviddam matescha. And here, naiva asura prakrte bhavanti bodham. This verse is from Yamunaja Acharya, right? You know what's the meaning of this? My dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narada know you to be the personality of Godhead by understanding different Vedic literature. One can come to know your characteristic, your form and your activities, and one can thus understand you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you, however expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and Upanishad and other Vedic literature. It is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. This is spoken by Yamunajacharya. So when you go to them and you try to speak, they're only going to become very angry and agitated. See, that's why only the pure devotees, they can control all the senses and all the and things soberly. Of course, another argument is that if the pure devotee gets angry, it's only for good. Prabhupada writes in the purport here that, what's his name? Narada, he cursed the two sons. That his anger, why you rascals? But his anger also is beneficial. See, that's why if you go to devotee, they're all good. Even they chastise or they praise you, whatever. Because devotees are meaning only good for you. But if you take it the other way, then offenses starts and then it becomes a little bad, dangerous. So that's why best you see a sadhu, whatever you say, you just bow down and pay respect. We don't want to upset them. Just like when Vishwamitra he went to get Ram, and Lakshman. From who? What's the father's name? Dasarath. He said, I want these two boys to go and fight this. No, I can come. They are little boys. I will come. You know the part in Ramayana? He said, no, you don't know the glories of these two boys. I don't need you. You see, okay, Sadhu said, all right, please you take. And the same thing happened also when Nityananda Prabhu, when what's his name, as sannyasi came and took from the father, no? Right? The father didn't say anything. Okay, no problem. You take and go. After that, the father passed away because of the separation. But he didn't stop the sadhu. You understand? So you see how a person who behaves spiritually, accommodating, Whereas when Daksha Prajapati, when Narada took his sons, oh, he became, you are not sadhu, I am the sadhu. You know, you can read all that in the, I think in the, what, fifth canto, I think some chapter there. You see how it's different. Person who is on the bodily concept and a person who is, they cannot bear the separation, and all that. So these are all different examples to show how a person behaves. So, but you know, in the fourth canto, I think it's four, what are, among all these things, anger is the worst. 4, 412, 410. Again, Dhruva Maharaj, he was very angry and killing all the Yakshasas. And then Swayambhuva Manu came and said, no, this anger is very dangerous. It not, it is not a quality for a person who is spiritually inclined. You know that verse? 411? 411 what? Rosam. Rosam means anger. My dear king, just consider what I have said to you, which will act as medicinal treatment upon disease. Control your anger, for anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. Anger is the foremost enemy on the path of spiritual realization. I wish all good fortune for you. Please follow my instruction. So this is another verse to explain how dangerous it is. So of course, it is very hard for any level man to control his anger. Of course, anger should be used against non-devotees. That's also a verse there. Krodha, Bhakta Dvesa, employed. But anyway, the best thing is to be, you know, controlled. Try to, because we cannot control when the devotees are blasphemed. That, like Prabhupada, if he is attacked, then it's our duty to defend by all means. You know, we are not going to say that it's all right, it's okay. You know, they are okay, we are okay. There's no such thing. They are not okay, and we are okay. This is it. And that's when we use full blast of anger, you know, rectify the situation. We cannot be, you know, so-called compromising. You understand? Jada Bharat never compromise. Okay, you shouted. All right. I'll carry this. No, indifferent. In fact, he started speaking and preaching to him and explained, you are not the king. You are not the body. Today you may be king. Tomorrow what? Huh? So later on you will hear all the talks and see how important it is. So okay, anybody got any questions or anything to cover up these points? I hope I managed to explain this subject.
When it comes to the anger of Brahma and Shiva,
Huh?
with the event of Prabhu testing Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. So, did we also conclude that Brahma and Shiva's anger was meant to glorify Lord Vishnu, or not necessarily?
Actually, that was an incident. Sometimes Krishna puts his pure devotees into some situation to teach, you know, us what's the position of the Supreme Lord. Like Prabhupada quoted this verse, you know. There's a verse from Lord Brahma. And this verse, by his will I create, Lord Shiva destroys, and he himself in his eternal form as the personality of Godhead maintains everything. He is the powerful controller of these three energies. Lord Krishna's position is always supreme. He cannot be, you know, in any way, as the Hindus believe, the Trinity, and they think that these are the how the Hindu thing works. The Holy Trinity. They try to equate with the Christian philosophy of what Son, Father, and Holy Ghost. They say their Trinity there, our Trinity is here. It's kind of a nonsense, because here it says, as nobody, can what? What the Bhagavad Gita verse? There's nobody equal to me. Huh? Mataha parantaram nanyad. Nobody can equal to the Lord. He's always supreme. Nobody can. Uh, Asama urdavaha. No equal and no greater. His position is always. So he employs us all these pastimes to educate us, to show us his the different position. So he puts like Brahma, he became bewildered. Now Brahma became angry. You know? So why? He had to show. But then he shows himself, even you put him in that position, he never disturbed. Right? That's his supremacy.
So Brahma is Acharya, right? Not Sampradaya. So it's reading in the CC how Madhvacharya did not comment on when Brahma became bewildered towards his godhood. So he did not comment his commentary on that. And Prabhupada explains that Madhvacharya did not touch this. And us in the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, we should also not accept this bewilderment of Brahma because he's Acharya. So sometimes we see devotees who quote Brahma to say that the devotee may become bewildered, this and that. So
The Prabhupada explains that point that someone said that Brahma also fell down. Prabhupada chastised the devotee. And there's a letter on that. They are not, ordinary souls like that. They have been used by Krishna to educate us. It's a different level. Even though he falls down, he doesn't fall down like me or you, And then uh, he simply gave up his mind, and the mind became twilight. He gave up his body. The demon took it, and so it's a different kind of, because his body is not like our body gross. They explain his body is very subtle. The higher you go, the body becomes more and more subtle. You don't have gross body like this. So it's a different level. That's why when they pass away, he just goes to the spiritual world. It's not that he just gives up a body and all that kind of thing. It's different. That point is explained in the CC, RD chapter 6, I think. Chapter 6, yeah? Text 32, 35, something like that. So you can read about that. Huh?
The canto also is mentioned, the walk episode. There Prabhupada is mentioning that Marichi's sons laughed at Brahma and they were cursed, they had to take birth as like Kansa's sons, those 6 sons.
So they have to be killed.
So therefore we have to be careful. Of course, we are giving the example. We are just repeating what we, not saying that, oh, see, Brahma, is not so pure, look at him. But this to show that how anger is not easy to handle. So, but a pure devotee, even is, put into a lot of difficulty, he is, because he's catching the lotus feet. That's just like the example of another example of Lord Shiva. When he was sitting down, Daksha came and he did not stand up because he was always meditating on the Lord. And that there it shows the exalted position of Lord Shiva. That part there. And Daksha became very angry. Why are you sitting down? I'm father-in-law. You should be waking up, respecting. Lord Shiva was not bothered because he's always thinking of the Lord. So then the transcendental plane, different. So that example of Lord Shiva is there. This example of Lord Shiva is also there. See? So our position is to explain transcendental position of a devotee and the Lord. So in that plane, it is explained, he was thinking about the Lord. So of course, when you think of the Lord, you're a pure devotee, no? Unless you think. You understand? So we have to be conscious of this point because Acharya, he didn't want to comment because he was respecting his Acharya Rama. I cannot say I don't know. I'm not. I'm not in the level to understand his mood. But nonetheless, in our sampradaya, we are explaining this so that the glorification of Krishna can be understood. Because that whole Leela, actually, when Brahma was bewildered, it was a pastime of Krishna because all the gopis, the elderly gopis, and the elderly, I mean the bigger cows, they wanted to get Krishna as their son. That was the pastime of the Lord. So, in order to fulfill that desire, the Lord enacted this whole episode. Okay?
Matre Muni also hesitantly spoke to Vidura about this incident.
Who?
Matre Muni, when he was
No,
narrating this to
no,
Vidura,
no, no. This incident was described by Sukadev to Parikshit Maharaj. And that incident is explained in the 10th canto, 10:14. There's a verse on that. Why the gopis were more uh, dedicated to the son, that Krishna has become, rather than their own son. Why? What is happened? So that the whole explanation in there in the verse 10, 14, 55. You can read that verse there. I'm not going to go into it, but you can go back and read the thing. It's explained how the Krishna is attracting everybody. Everybody is automatically attracted to Krishna because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. You may have other children and all, but Krishna, he all attracted because he's God. No? Jivere sarupa hoy Krishna re mamayangso jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. So this all these points on this. So okay, I guess I have explained this verse as much as my understanding works. I hope I have not bored you with all this. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanand.